get us into the music for this wonderful event, setting the tone for equity and aging with Age Strong Commission and Mayor Walsh.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome everyone, and we're going to start this off. I'm so happy to be here. We're so happy to be here. So please feel free to sway and dance wherever you are. It's that type of day. All right, we're going to start this off. Come on. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Listen, baby, in the mountains, in the valley low, in the river wide enough, baby, if you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far, don't worry, baby, just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry, you don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. I remember the day you set me free. Told you you can always count on me, darling. That day on made a vow. I'll be there when you want me some way, somehow. Baby, there ain't no mountain high enough. Come on, ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. All right, look out now. No, my darling, no wind, no rain, no winter cold can stop me, baby. Don't stop me, baby. You are my in trouble. I'll be there on the double. Just sing for me, oh baby. Woo! My love is alive, way down in my heart. Although we're miles apart, if you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double just as fast as I can. 'Cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. 'Cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, no, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. Ain't no mountain low enough, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no river wide enough, keep me from you. Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough, keep me from you. Hey, ain't no mountain high, no, ain't no valley low, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, keep me from getting to you, babe. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. Come on, let's do another one. Yeah. By the way, today you're listening to Athene Wilson and Friends. Mr. Rollins Ross on keyboards back there. Mr. Daniel Day on bass. Mr. David Fuller. All right. No, you don't call me anymore. I shouldn't wait in vain. I guess I'll rap on your door. Tap on it, tap on it, tap on your window pane. Tell you, baby, the change is something going through. Listen you, till you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Why did you have to decide? You had to send me Tap on it, tap on it, tap on your window. I'm gonna tap on your steps just to prove to you our love is true. Yes, and you, till you come back to me. That's all I'm gonna do. Hey, come on. Till you come back to me, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Till you come back to me, that's what I'm gonna do. Lee Wilson, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. I think we have one more. Yes. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you all know this one. Oh, yeah. Talk to me. Ooh, yeah. I know what place, y'all. Ain't nobody crying, y'all. Ain't nobody worried, yeah. Ain't no smile facing, lying to the races. Ain't no smiling faces, yeah. Somebody help me sing. I'll take you there. 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 Play your keyboard. Somebody help me sing it. I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? I'll take you there. Somebody help me, help me. I'll take you there. Somebody help me sing it. I'll take you there. Come on, Rob, sing it. Mr. On the top. Listen, soon and very soon, we are going to see the king. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the king. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the king. Soon and very soon, soon and very soon. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? Yeah. I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? Yeah. I'll take you there. Listen, y'all. I don't want nobody to give me nothing.
Say what? Say what?
Open up the door. I'm taking myself.
You need to say that
Can you
again.
hear me?
Come on.
I don't want nobody, no, to give me nothing. Open up the door. I'm taking myself.
Yourself, baby.
I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door. I'm taking myself.
Taking myself.
I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door. Open up the door. Open up the door. Taking myself. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? I'll take you there. Don't you wanna go with me? I'll take you there. Boy. Help me.
I'll take you there, baby.
Help me. You there. All right, all right, all right.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
Athene Wilson, everybody. Come on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh,
Hope you're having a
thank
good
you.
time.
Thank you so much for that
Thank you.
amazing live. This is live music, ladies and gentlemen, and
Yes,
all
it
of
is.
our guests,
Yes, it
attendees,
is.
panelists. This is live. They are there
Yes.
and playing their hearts out for you. Thank you so much. We're going to
Thank
go ahead and turn it over to our amazing Commissioner Shea to get us started.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julianne. Good morning, everybody. So for folks that don't know me, my name is Emily Shea, and I'm the Commissioner for the city's Age Strong Commission. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to this program today, and a big shout out to our band, Athene Wilson and Friends. I always love them. You all get better and better every time I hear you. So thanks for partnering with us today. And I know that a lot of you are probably dancing around your living rooms and kitchens. Usually we're together doing line dances, but I know that there's some dancing going on right now. So we'll be hearing some more of the band in just a few minutes, and then after we finish our speaking program, they'll play a few more songs as well. So very excited about that. So I want to say hello to everybody out there today. We're so happy you could join us for this important conversation. As I look through the participant list, I see a lot of names I recognize. So thanks to you all for coming with us together today. And we really miss seeing you all the time. So we're thrilled that we can get on this program with all of you today. And I also see some new names. So welcome to all of you, and thanks for joining us today. And please come back again for some more programs. So many of you have seen the mayor's press conferences. You've heard Mayor Walsh's robocalls. So you know that we believe it's important to get information out to you. So as we all continue taking the necessary steps to make sure that our community is safe and that you're safe and that we're all safe, we're also going to be increasing the amount of virtual opportunities we have for everyone to come together. So we'll be using email and also reaching out through the community to invite you to join us. If you don't have access to a device like a computer or a smartphone, you'll be able to join by telephone. I know we have some folks joining us by phone today. And we also are going to be putting some of the programs on Boston City TV and BNN, our local cable partners, so that everybody out there has a chance to access all of the information and programs that we have to share with people. So if you have friends out there and who want to get on our list, please just have them call us at the Age Strong Commission. All they have to do if they're in Boston is call 311 to get connected to us, and we'll make sure we get them onto our events list so that they know what's going on in the community. So our topic today, equity and racial justice, is an important conversation. You've seen the impact of years of systemic racism in our communities, you out there in the audience. Many of you have lived this, you've experienced this, and you probably know better than any of us what needs to change. We all need to do better. At the city, at the Age Strong Commission, we're looking at processes, we're looking at systems, and we're looking at funding to see how we can be part of that change too. And we invite you to join us in this effort. Today, you'll hear thoughts on this from a national perspective given by Dr. Jean Accius of AARP. You'll also hear the mayor, Chief Karilyn Crockett, and Chief Marty Martinez talk about what we're doing at the city level. And you'll also have a chance to be part of a dialogue moderated by Sheldon Lloyd from City Fresh Foods during our Q&A session. So you can see we have a lot to cover today, and we're going to get started with our speaking program at 2:30. So until then, we have some more music and dancing with Athene, Wilson, and friends. So back to you, Athene.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Emily. We get used to this. We are so happy to be with you today. And yes, I love you guys too. Yes, we're usually, dancing in the park or having so much fun together, but this is different. This is very different, and no problem. We'll make it work. This is the new out-of-the-box idea, right? So I hope you all are enjoying the music. You can sway and, do whatever you want to do. All right. My love has come along. My lonely days are over. Life is like a song. Ooh, yeah. Oh, and life. The skies above are blue. My heart's wrapped up in clover. Oh, yeah. Not on the run at you. I found a dream that I could speak to, a dream that I can call my own. I found a thrill to rest my cheek to, a thrill that I smile. Then the spell was cast. Yes, it was. So here we are. Heaven. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You are mine. Alive. Ooh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa. Come on. Mr. Ross. You talking to them now? That's Mr. Ross back there. I found a dream that I could speak to, a dream that I can call my own. I found a thrill to rest my cheek to, thrill that I never known. Oh, you smile, then the spell was cast. Yes, it was, yes, it was. So here we are in heaven. Boy, you were mine. You were mine. You were mine. You were mine. At last. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I believe we have. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Athene. That was beautiful. That was really
you.
beautiful. I am seeing a lot of folks in the chat saying it's beautiful music that you all are making there. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it. We appreciate that.
So, and I think we're going to get you back on more towards that after the speaking program. So, so for folks that are big Athene Wilson and Friends fans, they will be back. It is now my pleasure to introduce our poet laureate. Her name is Porsha Olayiwola, and I know that we have a video from her today. So let's get that rolling.
Good afternoon. My name is Porsha Olayiwola, and I'm the Poet Laureate for the City of Boston. It is my humble pleasure to be with you all virtually this afternoon to share this poem. And I write a lot about history, and this poem is a reimagination of a story about Dorothy Dandridge. There is a legend that reads Dorothy. If you don't know Dorothy Dandridge, she was a famous Black actress, singer. But there's a story that she was singing in Las Vegas And she walked past the pool and said, I would love to get in it. And they, the hotel workers said, you can't get in it because we'll have to drain the water if a Black person swims in it. And this is a reimagination of that particular story. And it's called Dorothy Dips a Toe into a Hotel Pool after being warned the water would be drained should a Black person swim in it. 1953, Las Vegas. And all at once, without and within, each well of wet everywhere swelled dry. The woman in the shower, shriveling, shaken bare. The cook steaming at the sink's faulty faucet, the rust keening and dragging itself through pipes. Chalices unfilled, air wilts the face, moisture abandons the flesh, the breath, the girth, water unflows, reruns away like blood from a wound. The swimming pool, brimming moments ago, now hold mothers who hold babies, dry sobbing at its base. Guests at the last frontier lay leisurely, their bodies broiled brittle on the deck. The Black spell is the yes cascading over a no. The anti to the anti, all kept from me in spite, shall spite keep from you with force. And in another land, unpromised, the color blue opens and spreads to blanket each eye. Dorothy stands at the water's ledge. Her curls and linen lie loose. Her skin, cool and sweet, sings a song unsang but known. Dorothy, a tall tide, coaxing herself into herself. Dorothy, a good curse, moves until waves wade at her waist. The dancing wet rushes to gather at her hips. She cups the clear in her palms and splashes upward. Dorothy raised her arms in ocean rain, urges the body to name itself religion. Dorothy splatters and ripples bring forth a sanctum. Each droplet is plenty for the city's south side. A shower gives itself to the children on 83rd playing at the hydrant. A spray fills the pot of collards on the back burner. Another flows through a school's fountain once lined with lead. Dorothy swishes water into the sugar breeze and it lingers in the air. No one thirsts. Moisture soothes a lonely throat. Dew demands a mother's seeds to grow. Dorothy raises the ocean and oh, I want to tell you how her hands cradled full drops toward the sky. How the water could hardly stand to let her go. Thank you all so much.
Wow, that was a beautiful and really thought-provoking poem. So we really appreciate the partnership of our poet laureate in this program today. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, our mayor, Martin J. Walsh. And it's a pleasure because I get to work for a mayor that I believe in. And not just because he's the big boss, and he probably signs all of our checks, but the real reason is because of his commitment to the community, his commitment to our older residents, and his commitment to fighting racial injustice. and you'll hear some of that today. Please join me in a very warm welcome for Mayor Walsh.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am not Mayor Martin J. Walsh, but he's heading out right now. Please forgive us.
All right, so maybe while we're waiting for the mayor to jump on, I just want to read some of these comments in the chat for those of you that can't see it and that are on the phone. This is for Porsha and for her poem. I'm hearing, thanks, Porsha. Wow, powerful, a very powerful poem, powerfully beautiful. Thanks to our very own Porsha Olayiwola, City of Boston's Poet Laureate. And then thank you, Porsha, amazing words. So I think we really were all, I think a poem is as good as kind of how it makes you feel and how moved you become by it. So I just really want to thank Porsha for that. And then I'm looking here in the chat also for those of you who can't see it with the band, and we have them coming back on later, but I hear I was swaying in my seat. Very nice music, thank you. Hello to everybody. Athene is wonderful, love her. We love this band. This music is a treat. So anyways, lots of fantastic kudos, and so I just want to make sure I'm reading those so we can pass those along to Porsha, and also pass them along to Athene Wilson and friends for all of their great work there and work joining us. I also want to make sure that I let people know that there is closed captioning available. So if you need closed captioning, there is a link in the Zoom chat for closed captioning. So please know that we have that available to you today if you need that. And the mayor should be with us shortly.
Athene, are you guys able to give us one song while we're waiting? Just to, I know everyone's loving that music.
We're here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just had to-
Love it. Yeah, let's bring it on in.
Oh, wait for the man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
All right, so
Oh,
let's play.
okay.
Why not? All right, Route 66 and up. All right. Sure, we can do that. That's no problem. And thank you all, and thank you for the comments. That is so nice. We enjoy being here all the time. So absolutely, we're just putting in some. Here we go. You ready? All right. Yeah, just give us 2 seconds. We don't have a drummer per se, and everything's programmed. So you're listening pleasure. If you ever fly to my life, jump my way, take the highway that's the best. Get your kick on Route 66. It's wide from Chicago to LA. 66. Hey, now you go through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City is mighty pretty. You see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this time? Please, when you make that California trip, yeah, get your kicks out on Route 66. Come on, Rollins. Oh, yeah. Hey. Mr. Rollins Rock Show. Hey, now you come to St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City is right ready. You see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Won't you get hip to this time? Please, when you make that California trip, hey, get your kicks out on Route 66. Oh, get your kicks out on Route 66. Oh, get your kicks out on Route 66. Yeah.
Athene Wilson, everybody, come on.
Oh, thank you, thank you. You were
Thank
fabulous.
you.
I appreciate you jumping right in there. So
No problem.
I understand that we have our wonderful mayor on with us right now. And so you all heard me introduce him just a couple of minutes ago, but I'm going to do it again. And Mayor, I was just telling everybody how important it is to me to be working for someone like you who believes in the community, who believes in our older adults, and who believes in fighting racial injustice. So really thrilled to have you here with us today. And please join me, everybody, for a warm welcome for the mayor.
Thank you very much, Emily, and thank you for having me today. I want to thank Athene Wilson and friends for bailing me out here. I apologize for being a little late and missing my cue earlier today. I was out the hallway, so Khalid had to come out and grab me and pull me back in. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the city team. I know everyone that's on here from the city. Thank you so much for your great work as well. This year, 2020, has been a year of reckoning for the United States of America. I think that everyone on this call understands that. As I was walking down the hallway, everyone's in meetings on Zoom. And you know, it's just been kind of it's been a difficult year with, you know, COVID and coronavirus and trying to navigate through that, and also systemic racism after the murder of George Floyd and the unrest in our country and our city. That's not new, but there was kind of a new understanding and definitely a recognition that I've never seen a response like that. And I'm proud to see the response, and we have more work to do. We also recognizing the inconsistencies and what we're seeing with health disparities in the city of Boston, in economic disparities. We're seeing housing disparities in so many different areas, and we have to continue to move hard every day. And then this weekend, I know I'm not supposed to talk politics, but there was a little bit of an election here in this country, and I would say that most of the people on this call are happy, or we're happy and are happy, and I certainly am happy. And I'm looking forward to working with the new administration in Washington next year and the years to come here, because the issues that we have to deal with and work on here in Boston are worldwide, nationwide and worldwide issues. So we're excited about that. So I want to thank everyone. For too long, we certainly haven't had leadership that we've needed at a national level. And cities have been stepping up in a big way. I'm on a call with mayors from all over America, with my mayors from Atlanta, Mayor Bottoms, and Mayor Cantrell from New Orleans, and Mayor Johnson from Dallas, and Mayor Garcetti from out in LA, and Mayor Adler down in Austin, Texas. And we're talking about the real life impacts that our citizens and people have every single day. We also understand and have many dialogues and conversations about how systemic racism plays out in everything that we have, from healthcare outcomes to job prospects to housing discrimination. That's why we need to look deep into our systems to root out the nation's racist legacy and rebuild those systems to create equitable opportunities moving forward. I think we heard it on Saturday night from Vice President-elect Joe Biden and also Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, the important work that they're going to do. They're going to do so much work here in America that's going to be incredible to see. And we're going to work with them as partners, quite honestly, and we look forward to that. I look forward to that. But this summer, we took some really bold steps here in Boston. We declared racism a public health crisis. We moved money from a police overtime budget into anti-racism and community health programs, including trauma services that we need in the city. The investments bolstered our public health commission's work in addressing health inequities during this virus. I don't know if Marty spoke yet, but the inequities that we're seeing still with people getting coronavirus, the Latino community is the highest numbers, the African-American community, the Asian community is not as high percentage-wise, but we're seeing disparities not only in the virus, but in health outcomes. So we have to work. Chief Martinez, is doing some amazing work. We established our first ever equity cabinet in Boston's history. Dr. Karilyn Crockett, I'm not sure if Dr. Crockett spoke yet, but she's leading the work in this office. We're excited to have her leadership here, and it's going to be amazing, the work that's being done here. We know that the issue of systemic racism is systemic. There's long-term problems, require systemic long-term solutions that we have to do here, and we have lots of work to do to heal our nation. We have lots of work, quite honestly, to advance our city and heal our city. That's why in Boston we recognize city government and put a chief of equity in the cabinet to drive the work forward. So I just want to say to all of you on the call, all of you on the Zoom, I should say, we love you. I miss seeing you. Emily and her team at 8 Strong are doing some amazing work, and just make sure you take advantage of the work that we're doing here in the city of Boston. Take care of yourself. We want you to continue to physical distance, wear masks, wash hands down. We're still in the middle of this virus. And we want to be able to be back out in the streets soon. We want to be at events and seeing each other. And in order to do that, we have to push this virus back, and we need you to be safe and healthy during that. You are the strongest members of our community. The battles that we're going through in 2020, many of you went through them in the 60s, and you know exactly firsthand what it's like. And so we still have work to do. So I'd like to thank you all for being part of this today and having me part of this. And I think I'm supposed to introduce, Emily, am I introducing the next speaker?
You are, Mayor.
All right, so I get to
jump in if you want.
I get the honor to introduce the next speaker, who is a friend to seniors and older Bostonians, and a friend to the city, and a friend, quite honestly, on a nationwide level. Dr. Jean Accius, Senior Vice President of AARP Global Thought Leadership. Jean, take it away. Dr. Jean, take it away.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and Mayor Walsh, thank you so much for your leadership and your vision and for such powerful remarks. And I just want to extend my gratitude to you, because we know that leadership matters and leadership is critically important. And to all of the commissioners and the team at 8 Strong, thank you so much for your partnership. And to all of you who's joined us today, as the mayor indicated, we are all experiencing and weathering 3 major crises. a pandemic that has infected more than 10 million Americans, and over 238,000 people have passed away as a result of COVID-19. Along with the pandemic came the biggest economic shock, with GDP falling roughly about 33% on an annual rate, which was the deepest decline since they started to keep records in 1947. And if we didn't think things could get any worse, racial and social unrest has rocked us to our core. I'm struck with two questions. The first one is, given the magnitude and the intensity of the storms we are weathering, are we on the same boat? Some might argue that we're all weathering the storms, but in many cases, we may not be all on the same boat. And then the second is, what would it take for all of us to live and reach our fullest potential? One of the things that has been very clear is the fact that it's not your genetic code, but your zip code that determines how long you live in the United States. And that's just plain wrong. In Boston, for example, health outcomes, including life expectancy, varies as much as 33 years between census tracts. Life expectancy in Roxbury area is about 58.9 years, less than a half a mile away. In Massachusetts Avenue, residents of Black Bay have the city's highest life expectancy of almost 92 years. The differences in life expectancy, however, are just not unique to Boston. In Manhattan, for example, residents in East Harlem live to about 71 years old, and while just a few blocks over at the Upper East Side in New York, those residents live up to 90. From Manhattan to north to the Bronx, life expectancy declined 10 years. So that's literally 6 months for every minute on the subway. And near my hometown, Baltimore, life expectancy in Sandtown neighborhood is 70, and only a few miles away in Roland Park, it's 84. So one of the things that I think that 2020 has given us, despite this chaos and some of the crises that I've just talked about, is an opportunity to really impact change, and hopefully meaningful change. As COVID-19 has spread across the world, one of the things that we've noticed is that there are two notable trends. The first one is that the pandemic has hit older people much harder than other age cohorts. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 8 in 10 people who have died from COVID in the US were ages 65 and older. Second, it's also clear that Black, Latino, and Native American people in the United States are being hospitalized and dying from the virus at disproportionate rates. Sadly, these disparities are not random, as the mayor indicated. Historically, health and economic outcomes have been tied to the accumulation of opportunity, and that the highest bidders benefited tremendously. People of color face significant structural barriers to healthcare access, from living in communities with inadequate healthcare resources to dealing with racial bias and encounters with healthcare providers, and more. However, I am optimistic. There are two divergent paths ahead of us, and this is an inflection point. On one hand, we can continue to operate within systems that are full of cracks and inequities that harm the most vulnerable among us. Or we can be bold, we can be courageous, and take another path, one in which we can reimagine our future in a way that embodies resiliency and interconnectivity, a route that really affirms that we are much stronger together than we can ever be in isolation. I believe now is the time to take that second path. As our country manages COVID-19 crisis, our goal cannot be to return to the past inequities that has resulted in a lot of these disparities. I've heard many people say, I wish we could get back to normal. I wish we could go back to the normal days. Well, one thing that COVID-19 has illustrated is the fact that those normal days, those days actually included many people who were marginalized from our system, who were discounted in our system. So going back to those normal days would be going back to those disparities. And now's the time to actually address those in a very meaningful and active way. As a society, we are missing out because a large portion of our population is being held back. What would it look like if everybody had the chance to exercise and reach their full potential? Well, according to one study, advancing racial equity would generate about $8 trillion in GDP by 2050. And we would see an increase in additional federal tax revenues by $450 billion. And in terms of state and local tax revenues, by $100 billion a year. And that makes a lot of sense because people are living longer, they're having more productive lives, and they can contribute to society. And we all benefit from that. However, preserving the status quo is hurting America as a whole, not just people of color. So as we approach the recovery, we need to think about this as a reset. We must look to the potential of all to take deliberate, realistic, and proven measures to ensure that people have an opportunity to live longer, healthier, and more productive lives as they age. We must rebuild a health and social system that is more equitable than it was before. Improving longevity means not just improving the healthcare system, but addressing racism, discriminatory housing policies, discrimination in employment, cities with poor walkability, and the challenges that we face with our educational systems. As we continue to manage COVID and all it has changed, we need everyone to get on board. We need private industry, the public sector, the nonprofit sectors, and philanthropy to address these historic inequities. Communities of color should not be living shorter lives than their counterparts just a few blocks away. And no one should be experiencing hunger or homelessness, living in poor health, or dying a speedier death as an older American. We all have a responsibility and a role to play in solving these challenges. This is our chance to innovate. This is our chance to be bold and courageous. Advancing equity would enable not only greater prosperity, but also the means to withstand, hold steady, and come out stronger in future crises. I know this sounds like a heavy lift, and in fact it is, but there are a few things that we can do now to lead the way in addressing racial equity as we navigate this pandemic. First and foremost, on a personal and individual level, I think it's important for all of us to really talk about equity and advance equity as part of our conversations with our family members, with our friends, with our neighbors, with our coworkers. We all have a role to play. In addition to that, I think it's critically important for us to be aware of our own unconscious biases and stereotypes, to get to know people who don't look like us or share our viewpoints, and develop a growth mindset and be courageous in getting out of our comfort zone. So really thinking about how much and how can we empower individuals while also acknowledging the fact that individuals, while they have choices, those choices are really a function of the options that are available for them. Think about it. If you have to drive 30 miles to be able to get access to fresh fruits and vegetables, if you have to drive 30 miles to get access to a physician or a good quality hospital care, is that really an equitable choice? So we must ensure equitable access to resources and services that are reaching people across the community. At a community level, solutions must also come out of collaboration with community members and decision makers and experts. I am a firm believer that communities don't need to be told what their problems are, nor should they have a solution thrust upon them without their input. Those closest to the problems are also in a position to help co-create the solutions. And it's important for us to think about what are the mechanisms in which we are getting community input and having that community partnership. The other aspect that I would mention is the fact that organizations that are complacent about diversity, equity, and inclusion are complicit in the racial and social injustices that we see. So as leaders across government and the private industry, it's important to assess current practices using a racial equity lens with an attention to age and life stage perspectives to ensure that the policies that we're creating really address the needs and serve the needs of the vast majority of the population. And then we must also leverage those lessons from the pandemic to inform future plans for organizational resilience. I will say that I think it's critically important because if we do agree that these disparities are not random and that these disparities are not new and that COVID-19 has exacerbated and magnified a lot of these challenges, then I think it's also fair to say that there might be some solutions that we've thought about in the past or that we've tried that could be potentially scaled up. So what are the opportunities to really look for existing solutions and ideas proposed in the past that should be funded and piloted to close these opportunity gaps? Finally, several states and cities similar to Boston have created task forces to address the issues of equity and the disproportionate impact of COVID-19, particularly on communities of color. And I think that that's a critically important goal to have a blueprint and a map. And my recommendation is to not only create the task force and to have these conversations and to partner with the community, but also to ensure that these recommendations do not sit on the shelf. That, as the mayor talked about, that there's funding allocated to advance solutions, and that as advocates, we hold our policymakers and our leaders accountable for implementing these recommendations. Solutions must be as expansive as the problem, and that they must involve public, private, and nonprofit sectors. But I'm also critically aware that it's important to build trust, and that building trust is the foundational step for creating and accelerating a lot of the solutions. It is our collective responsibility to not go back to a time of exclusion where opportunities were cut off for some at the expense of others. We do have this opportunity to design not a recovery, but a reset. We do have an opportunity that is much bigger than any of us, and we have a real chance to start building anew. We must continue to believe that a better future is possible. We must act with purpose and lead with great intent. And we must understand that our lives are interconnected and our well-being is forever linked. It is then and only then that we can live what our nation promises, that all men and women are created equal. Thank you for your time, for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm excited about the work that Boston is doing and the impact that all of you and all of us will make together for ensuring that our country can really be safe and equitable, where everyone has an opportunity to live a longer and healthier life.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Accius. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Accius? All right. Good. I wouldn't want to be pronouncing that incorrectly, because you gave us some really important things to think about. And I think that now, as we listen to Chief Crockett and also Chief Martinez, we can see how we're implementing some of those things or thinking about some of those things on a local level as well. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Chief Crockett. Chief Crockett came to us from MIT, where she was a lecturer of public policy and urban planning. Dr. Crockett, actually where I first met her was here at the City of Boston, where she worked for the Economic Development Cabinet and was tasked with creating an equity-driven policy framework for guiding job creation, small business development, neighborhood revitalization, and public procurement strategies. So I am thrilled you're back with us at the City, Dr. Crockett, and want to turn it over to you for a few remarks.
Commissioner Shea, thanks so much for the warm welcome, and also want to appreciate Dr. Accius for such thought-provoking words, and for the mayor for opening us up. You know, this is a wonderful event. There's music and Porsha's poetry. It's so important to feel connected and to feel like we can have a good time even in Zoom land. And so I am not surprised that the Age Strong Commission continues to just raise up the bar for how to feel connected and taken care of. So thank you for that. You know, Commissioner Shea, your leadership for our seniors and our families is so important. And I just want to send a shout out to all the aunties and the uncles and the parents and grandparents, all of you who are just people who hold families together. I was raised by my grandmother, and so for me to know how important it is to recognize intergenerational families, caregiving, healing, and support has been foundational to my own path and journey. So I really appreciate the chance to be here. So yes, I bring greetings as the Chief of Equity, the city's very first one. When Mayor Walsh created the Equity and Inclusion Cabinet, and appointed me as the city's first ever Chief of Equity, you know, what you're seeing is evidence of the mayor's bold commitment to equity as a priority. To remember that equity is not only a principle, it is also a process and a goal. And through the mandate that the mayor has issued for me, I have the opportunity to embed equity through all of the city's plans and processes and structures. And so that is not a task I take lightly. There are more than 50 plus departments and agencies which make up Boston City Hall, and all of that hold 18,000 plus employees, which is tasked to hold all of our city together. And so all of us working collectively are really pushing forward this work. For me, the work is very much personal. I was born and raised in Boston, in Dorchester, as I mentioned, raised by my grandmother, a single parent who had big wishes and dreams for me and for my family. My family came to Boston from West Virginia and really believed that the city of Boston could offer them a new chance, a chance of economic inclusion, a chance for educational attainment, and a chance for community. And my family came here, and like many families, really struggled to find that. And so the struggle of my own family has been instructive to how I think about what is important and how I think about the role of government. And so Mayor Walsh's commitment to rooting out systemic racism, to calling out the structural forces that make opportunity fleeting for some folks, means that we have work to do. And so the Equity and Inclusion Cabinet stands as a structure to show us that government needs to change and shift. And so I come as a new cabinet, but my cabinet includes several different departments that many of you already know. So I come including the Office of Women's Advancement, the Office of Immigrant Advancement, the Office of Language and Communications Access, the Office of Diversity, the Office of Resilience and Racial Equity, and the newly relaunched Human Rights Commission. And so each of these departments bring a real clear mandate to increase opportunity, increase access, increase possibilities for Black and Brown communities, for immigrants, for folks who are living the reality of our city's diversity. We are a bold city. It's multi-ethnic, multiracial, multilingual, transnational community of 700,000 people, amazing, 54% non-white, an incredible community. And so the work of my cabinet is to make sure that our communities are not only responded to, held, and prioritized, but that the mandate to equity extends through all of the city's work. And so this is a generational work. The mayor's also announced a racial equity fund, a new fund that the mayor announced in June. The idea here is to create a new kind of investment vehicle for increasing the wellness, the equity, the prosperity and safety of Black and Brown communities across the city of Boston. This is an extraordinary time that we are living in, and it is necessary that the government take extraordinary efforts to not only call out the past and the problems of the past as evidenced by the mayor's declaration of racism as a public health crisis, but that the government is also bold in creating a new true north for all of us that can help us live into what is necessary for generational change. And so many of you on this call have been working for years, for decades, for your lives to make sure that this country and the city can live up to its promise. And now it's time for us to double down on that commitment to get this thing right. And so when we come together, we need to know that not only are our voices heard and received, but it can translate into new policies, new structures, new opportunities, new funding streams for not only tomorrow, but even for today. And so I send out to everyone on this call an invitation to join me in partnership, to join me in visioning out so much of what we know our city needs to be, because it's not just about a far view into the future, but really thinking about what it means to close the gap on so many of the disparities that we know exist. And so as I work to bring an intersectional approach to equity, the work includes economic inclusion, includes really thinking through health equity, and also thinking through racial equity and racial justice. At the center of that work for me is something that Dr. Accius spoke about, and it is the work of closing the racial wealth gap. So before us, we know that there is the data that shows us that too many data points continue to be obdurate, a problem. When the Federal Reserve Bank came out with the Colored Wealth Report in 2015, the numbers spoke for themselves, and they still speak to us. The fact that we know we can look at a data point that tells us that $247,000 as the median wealth for a white family versus $8 as the median wealth for a Black family. It is unbelievable, and it is problematic, deeply and structurally problematic, that in a city like Boston, where there is so much wealth and prosperity, that absolutely there are barriers based on race and gender and ethnicity that mean that we cannot close those gaps and we cannot participate fully in the economic, social, and political well-being and wealth of the city. And so what is it that we can do in government? There is work to do here in terms of aligning policies, aligning procedures, and having a real honest question about equity. And that lets us know that there's work to do also outside of City Hall. And so a big part of my work will also be in reaching out to folks in the private sector, folks in the healthcare world, and folks in the education world, and asking them to be in partnership with us to be about this newly imagined work of bringing Boston into equity. And so that is the charge. And again, I really welcome the opportunity to be in continued partnership with the Age Strong Commission and learning what we can do together to realize this change that needs to be brought about for a new generation of Bostonians that are in the streets, that are talking to us, that are demanding change right now. So really happy to be here and celebrating this incredible moment, this incredible event with you, and really honored for the opportunity to build a set of new possibilities that we know we deserve right now. Thank you so much, Commissioner Shea, again, for the opportunity to be here and to celebrate with everyone. It's wonderful to be able to have some joy and some celebration, because we need that to get through the hard fights that we've had behind us, and certainly the hard fights that are to come.
Yes, no, those couldn't be truer words, Chief Crockett, and I very much appreciate you being here with us. And I heard your call to folks really to partner with us on this work. We have a lot of people on this call with lots of knowledge and lots of experiences, and could really benefit from your partnership as we move forward. It is my pleasure now to introduce our Chief Marty Martinez, who's the chief of the Mayor's Office of Health and Human Services for the city. So Health and Human Services is one of the largest cabinets at the city, and I think the best way to describe it is all of our departments really touch people out there in the community, touch our constituents, touch our residents. So many offices he oversees, but a couple I want to call out right now. Chief Martinez oversees the Office of Recovery Services, and so has been leading the city's response to the opioid epidemic, as well as oversees Boston Centers for Youth and Families and the Department of Youth Employment and Engagement, and so has been overseeing a lot of the development of youth programs that encompass the city's violence prevention and intervention efforts. And then I think probably most significant to this moment, Chief, we have the Boston Public Health Commission under the cabinet, and the Chief has been really leading the work that the city has been doing, guiding the work we've been doing around COVID, and making sure we can keep our communities as safe as possible. So Chief Martinez, a pleasure to have you on, and please join me in a warm welcome for the Chief.
So thank you, Emily, and for having me. And it was great to hear Dr. Crockett and Dr. Accius sort of share their thoughts and wisdoms. And to follow two doctors is always good because there's lots of important information that they shared. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you everyone for being here at this event and being able to spend some time with us where we're really talking about racial justice in our community and all the challenges that are in front of us. And so I'm just happy to be able to be here. I wish I could see so many of you in person. Many of you I do know and have been able to connect with over the past 3 years that Age Strong's been in Health and Human Services and me in this role. And so I just hope all of you are well and doing well in the midst of everything that we're facing. You know, when I think about racial justice and where we are as a moment in our community, I think so much about the challenges that are in front of us and the challenges we experience now. But before that, I think about all the work that so many seniors and older Bostonians have done to create equity and a more equitable Boston. We haven't solved racism. We haven't solved the inequities or the challenges that are in our community. But many of you on this call or on this Zoom have been part of that struggle and have done so much, not only to demand equity and demand equality, but ensure that your voice is heard at that table, that we work collaboratively to address many of the issues that have separated folks and have made sure that some folks don't have the same opportunities. So I just want to start by saying thank you for that. It gives me hope. It gives me inspiration as I tackle the work that I'm here to tackle every day. And so that work is so incredibly important of what you've done in this city. And so on behalf of so many of us, I want to thank our seniors and thank our older Bostonians for their work and their courage to not give up and keep working. Unlike Dr. Crockett, I'm not a born and raised Bostonian. I've only been here 21 years. So I know to many people that's nothing. That's only 5 minutes. But in the 20 plus years that I've spent in the city, working on behalf of community, working on behalf of those who need support, whether it's running a nonprofit, working in our community centers and in our schools on behalf of youth of color to create opportunities for them, or in the past 3 years as the Chief of Health and Human Services, I've learned a lot about the opportunities that are here in Boston for our residents and our neighbors. I've learned a lot about how to work to create more opportunities for seniors and continue to understand some of the issues that impact our community. I think the 8 Strong Commission and Commissioner Shea and her amazing team have done so much to make sure that the opportunities that need to be there and that exist for seniors are there. And we can't forget that work and how important it is in front of us. But I think in the past 8 months or 9 months that we've all been in somewhat of a different time when we've seen COVID impact our communities and inequitably impact not only populations, but impact neighborhoods differently, impact families differently, and impact our communities so differently. It's hard not to be challenged by the fact that we've had such an inequitable impact of COVID. We've seen, our Black, African American, and Latino populations be disproportionately impacted, not only by cases, but by deaths as well in the city. We've also seen our older Bostonians be disproportionately impacted by the severity of COVID, with almost 50% of deaths of COVID happening in long-term care facilities, where our older Bostonians and folks with disabilities every single day are getting the support they need, but to have that happen in those facilities is difficult and challenging. And so when we see the inequities that are in front of us, we have no choice but to address them, to face them, and figure out how to create a better path forward. The mayor said this, I think, today when he spoke to you all, and it's something that I truly believe in and am proud to partner with them on, that which is we cannot leave COVID and we cannot leave all that we've experienced around the coronavirus in the way that we came into it. We must leave in a more equitable and just way than the way we entered. The inequities and the disparities that so many of us have seen during COVID and so many people have experienced, not only personally, but also within our neighborhoods and our families and our friends, those always existed. COVID didn't create those inequities. Lack of access to care, lack of access to be able to survive as a family or a community and have access to food and resources and shelter. COVID didn't create those things. But what COVID did do is it shined a light on them. It made them more apparent to so many of us, and it really showed us the supports that people need. So we've worked really hard to try to address those inequities. We've set up a task force, as the mayor mentioned, to really look at the issues that are happening in specific neighborhoods. We're looking at data every week, every day, if you will, at the data of who's in the hospital, where are people testing positive, what neighborhoods are most impacted. And then we're getting out there, we're rolling up our sleeves, and we're working to address those issues by creating access to services, access to resources. But more importantly, at the same time, when we're trying to respond to the crisis, we're also planning for a more equitable tomorrow. We're working to create a Health Equity Now plan, bringing voices to the table to ensure that we can create a plan that's going to address many of the social determinants of health that are there. Housing, transportation, quality education, access to quality healthcare, and so many things that we should not have to decide between, whether we can get prescriptions or get our food or live in the right place we need to live or have access to the care that we need. The choices that we have to make is what drives so much of the inequity, because for many people, those choices are about survival down one path or another. And COVID has made that survival and those choices a matter of life and death for so many. And so we have to continue to address and tackle the issues that are in front of us. I know that you all know well the work that has been done and the work that needs to continue to happen to address the inequities that exist. And sometimes when you see the things we've seen around COVID, it's been some difficult moments. They've been tough. Lately, people have asked me, how are you? How are you doing? When I see people on a call or on the phone, as we don't see many people in person. I've been saying what's real, which is that I'm tired. I'm kind of tired. And I share that with you because this work, it's hard work. It's tough work. But I look from all of you as inspiration. Older Bostonians have seen this city go through tough times and have worked hard to see this city come out of those tough times in many ways. And so I'm grateful to take from your inspiration, the work that you've done and the commitments you've made on behalf of Bostonians to keep this work moving and to ensure that we leave in a better place than the way we entered. Because that's the only way we ensure that Boston is truly addressing racial injustice and inequity today, tomorrow, and in the future for the next generation. So I just want to thank you for an opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you for being able to see you from a distance. Those of you who I miss seeing in person, I always say that I'm the other Marty at most of the Age Strong events, and I'm proud of that work. I'm proud to be working with Mayor Walsh, who continues to place a great emphasis on seniors and equity, and who's not afraid to tackle these issues in front of us. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm just glad I could join you. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you so much, Chief Martinez. And before we move on to the Q&A, which we're about to get to, I just want to call out a few folks that have joined us today. I know we have Commissioner Kristen McCosh on from our Disability Commission, so welcome, Commissioner. We have Mike Festa, who's the AARP State Director. Welcome, Mike. And Val Frias is on with us today, CEO of Ethos, and that actually leads me right into my next introduction, because we work with Ethos and with the Chinese Golden Age program on the Meals on Wheels program throughout the city, as well as our other ASAP partners. But critical to this program is City Fresh Foods. And I am really thrilled today to be able to introduce our moderator for the question and answer session today, Sheldon Lloyd. Sheldon is the CEO of City Fresh Foods. And so if you or friends out there are getting Meals on Wheels, Sheldon is the one responsible for a lot of the kitchen that cooks a lot of those foods and some of the delivery. They are actually responsible for managing production, logistics, and delivery for over 25,000 meals a day across Massachusetts. And so very, very excited to welcome Sheldon to this today and to have him take away the moderating program of the Q&A.
All right. Welcome everyone from City Fresh. I promise that we're going to return to the park soon. We look forward to that event and we will get back there. I want to give a quick shout out to my team here at City Fresh of essential workers who've been getting meals out during this pandemic. And in a strange way, this confirms why City Fresh is here. But without further ado, I want to get to some of the questions that have come in. And the first question I'm going to throw out to whoever wants to answer it on the panel. And this question is, what else is being done to see that African descendants of slavery get some of the opportunities for employment. They are falling through the cracks, and it's hard on the age strong, for they have to economically help these younger people out, but aren't necessarily qualified.
So I invite any of our speakers to answer that. I know we have Dr. Accius on and Chief Crockett and Chief Martinez. Do any of you want to take that one?
This is Gina. I'll go first. I think that there are two areas to kind of think about, and I heard many of the speakers talk about it today, and that this is really how do we start to address the systemic issues that we face. And as Chief Martinez indicated, that COVID-19 did not create these disparities. These disparities have long existed, and I think that one area is around health, and the other is around building out wealth, which is something I think Dr. Crockett talked about. Is really thinking about what are the opportunities to really build wealth, both in terms of home ownership, but also in terms of entrepreneurship. I know there's been a lot of focus as of late looking at opportunities to really help build back better businesses, particularly that are minority owned. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend that talked about minority owned banks and how we've gone from 35 to about less than 18. And what are the opportunities to build capital there? There's a lot of focus around really providing tools and resources, particularly for minority entrepreneurs, to get access to more capital in order to be able to not just ensure that their businesses are extremely viable and resilient, but also that those business owners can actually transfer wealth and build wealth through across generations. So that's just one example, I think, that where there's a lot of synergy, at least at the national level, to start to address some of these systemic issues that has long plagued us.
I also want to be sure to first of all, Sheldon, it's great to see you. It's wonderful to have City Fresh represented on the call. Cannot say enough about just the amazingness of this business and watching you all just grow and be successful and be such an important partner in leading and taking care of the city. It's just amazing to have you. Great question about what are the economic opportunity areas for particularly for Black workers and residents in the Office of Economic Development. This continues to be a core question, but also through the Office of Workforce Development. Trin Nguyen is doing quite a lot of great work to make sure that the money that's coming through linkage is actually helping to support training programs. We have much work to do in the city to make sure that Boston's economic drivers, which really for us means biotech, healthcare, higher education, and financial services, that there are clear on-roads into these sectors for folks from the neighborhoods. We have a lot of kind of money-making sectors of growth in our economy, and if we really want to kind of make sure that we can have a way to get ahead of this issue in terms of the racial wealth gap, we got to figure out how more folks who live in the city can benefit from the jobs that we are producing and creating here in the city. Entrepreneurship is a huge part of that, and so very concerned about what the devastation that COVID is bringing to us economically and what it will mean to rebuild the economy in a way that really prioritizes, again, growth areas. We also have so much job creation that's in the retail sector, that's in hospitality. Those sectors have taken an incredible hit right now. And so there's work for us to do to make sure that we're prioritizing communities that we know have been disproportionately affected, not only health-wise, but also economically. So tremendous question. And thanks for keeping your finger right on the core issue here.
Okay, excellent. So I'd have to correct that question, the end of it. It was people, they're saying the younger people who are qualified, not qualified. So I just want to correct that. So this question is for Dr. Crockett. Can you share more about the impact of racial wealth gap in retirement and being able to afford housing, care, services, and more without supplemental income from assets when you're living on a fixed income? Thank you.
Yeah, this is another great question. What we see is that because of also the disproportionate rate of home ownership, in the city of Boston and across the country, that most folks who are approaching retirement age are going to pull out sometimes the equity or downsize their home as part of their supplemental retirement money, right? And so how do we address the fact that folks who want to enter, who want to own homes, have that possibility, or think about what it means to actually be in the city at a time when your revenue or money that you're making from your active employment years is coming to a close. And so this is also a new trend that we've been seeing in the last 15 and 20 years, where more folks who are older are really planning to live out their golden years in the city. And so very different kind of pressures on the city of Boston as we think about the growth of the city. We're seeing the growth in the city affected by people who are younger, who are individual workers or students, but also folks who have raised their families and who want to be able to have the convenience and be able to live out their time in the city because of the amenities and convenience. But this question about what it means to have the wealth, the money that you need to live out your life is a real question, because the wealth gap data really makes us pay quite a bit of attention to home ownership rates and what that means in terms of equity.
If I could add just a couple of additional points to Dr. Crockett's great answer. I think from the vantage point of AARP, one of the things that we've noticed and have been working with many of our members across the country, and we've heard this quite a bit, that for many people, their biggest fear is that they will outlive their savings, that they would outlive their retirement. And in many cases, people are looking for opportunities in terms of both savings and planning, works and jobs. And as an organization, we've created a range of different types of programs to really help people where they are with regards to savings and planning for their retirement future. Also looking at ways in which, in case people want to continue to work or need to work, what are the tools and resources and skills that they need in order to be competitive in the marketplace, and our AARP office can help with that. And then, of course, clearly thinking about what are some of the social safety net programs, or some of the programs that are vital for our economic and health security. And AARP has been on the front lines, really addressing the needs around Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. So I just wanted to kind of share that there are some resources that can help to think about the life stage in which you're in and how to really position yourself to be very competitive to address some of your retirement and your retirement issues as you get older.
All right, thank you. I'm going to point this question to Chief Martinez and Dr. Accius. If you guys can just give some brief answers and being conscious of time. Do you have a plan for mental health issues often undealt with, especially under these times?
Yeah, thanks, Sheldon. Good to see you also. There's no question that the times we're in right now have been traumatic. They've been traumatic for so many people, not only what we've experienced, but also for older Bostonians. There's been so much, some of our advice to socially distance and to isolate, to keep ourselves safe, puts us in a place where we don't have the human connection. And that's very difficult for those, for most people, for all people. But again, for many, it can be a big challenge. And so some of the things I think Age Strong has done some activities to try to connect folks socially in distant ways, whether it's virtually, through letters, through a variety of different means, but also some of our community centers have also tried to create opportunities for folks to engage in a safe but socially distant way. But the reality is, like so much, COVID has put us in a scenario where one recommendation or strategy to keep us healthy or safe makes us unhealthy or unsafe in the same sort of conversation. So there is no fix. I don't have a secret thing that we've done. All I know is we have to continue to think about how we connect with each other, how we continue to make sure we reach out when we need help and support, and that we check on those around us. because we're in this moment now and we'll continue to be in it. It's a very difficult one to be in, but we will get through it, and that has to be something we lean on to.
Dr. Accius, you have a little to add?
Sure. No, I just would re-emphasize Chief Martinez's points that we've all been impacted by COVID-19, and especially around the role of our social isolation and the devastating impact that has on our mental and overall well-being. I would encourage you to reach out to your local resources, particularly around some of the mental health resources that might be available. And then also some of the national resources. At AARP, we created a program called Community Connections for many of the reasons Chief Martinez discussed. And this is an opportunity for neighbors to really help neighbors and to pick up the phone and call someone who may be isolated, to reach out and create mutual aid groups. And even on that Community Connections website, there's a list of mental health organizations that are national with certified therapists who will be able to answer any of your questions. So I encourage you to just look at that as a potential resources as well.
Okay, great. Dr. Crockett.
Sheldon,
yes.
I think we need to wrap up relatively soon.
This is a quick one.
Okay, quick one. Go ahead.
I think it's an important one. Anyway, thanks again for your leadership. Aging community is facing a new need during the COVID-19. What is the plan that you may have to implement internet access and digital tools to the elderly community to keep communications among them?
Yeah, thank you so much for this this question as well. Very much in the center of my list of priorities. So what we've learned from COVID has been that the digital divide can be deadly in many ways. And so I have prioritized this as an equity issue, and really happy with all the work that the Age Strong Commission has been lifting up, and Commissioner Shea, to say that this has got to be something that we have got to figure out as a city. So welcome any more sort of comments or conversation or suggestions here, because it's a big piece of work that is front and center for us, but also there are several agencies, including BHA, including in Boston Public Library, folks that are really seeing this need to increase internet connectivity at home, to increase hardware that folks have at home, and also digital literacy as a really important way to think about our equitable recovery. So thanks for the question. It's exactly, absolutely spot on.
All right, thank you all, and we'll see you in the park, all the party folks in our annual event. We're going to get back to it, so thank you all.
That's right. Thank you so much, Sheldon, for moderating that. And I wish we had more time for questions. I know that we have a lot of great questions people have asked. I want to be respectful of our panelists, because I know they all have busy schedules, but we're going to collate those questions. We're going to try and get folks some answers, and we're going to make sure we connect back with you all, because we have your emails with some of those answers to the questions. So before we turn it back over to Athene, Wilson, and friends, I want to thank our panelists for today. We had the mayor, we have Dr. Accius, Chief Crockett, and Chief Martinez. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Sheldon, for leading the Q&A. Also, I want to recognize that we were just talking about kind of mental health and keeping people connected. We do have a number of our partners that I saw even here on the phone, a number of community center partners and senior center partners throughout the community. So I want to thank them all for their work keeping people connected, and we can get that information out to people because there are a lot of us out there that are doing the work of trying to stay connected to folks. I also want to recognize that we have some senior groups represented here, and I know that you all have stayed connected during this time with your members, and appreciate you joining us here today. I see representatives of the Golden Heirs, the Mayor's Senior Advisory Council, Mass Senior Action Council. So thank you all. I don't know if there are other groups out there, but feel free to put it in the chat while we're listening to the band again. So again, I want to just end our panel discussion. If you have additional questions, put them in the chat, and we will make sure that we get those answered for you. And I would like to invite Athene, Wilson, and friends back on screen so that we can hear a little bit more of their fabulous music before we close out in about 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. We are back, and what a wonderful, wonderful time we had today to the panelists and everyone that participated. And I want to say thank you for having us one more time. It's been our pleasure to be with you this evening.
Yes.
All right. Without further ado, I hope you all enjoyed it. And now it's time to, send you off in a musical way. So let's go.
All right. And if you've heard these words lately, let's stay together and keep together. I so in love with you. If you want me to, sorry me, 'cause you make me feel so brand new, babe. I want to spend my whole life with you. Baby, can say, babe, since we've been together, oh, loving you weather, that's all I can see. Let me be the one you come running to today. I wanna spend my love, my life with you. Just wanna say it, let's, baby, let's stay together. Loving you weather, times are good or bad, happy or sad. Hey. Oh, no. Oh, man. Well, there are times are good or bad, happy or sad. Why? Somebody tell me. Why people break up, oh, turn around and make up. I just can't see. Look, I said, you never do those three things to me. No, I didn't, baby. Around you is all I need. Just wanna say, yes, baby. Let's stay together. Oh, loving you weather, times are good, babe. Happy and sad, Rollins. Stay together as a country
as a world.
Yes.
Let's stay together.
Let's stay together. Come on.
You know this song. I want y'all to help us sing. We got it. Listen. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. Baby, when it's cold outside, I got the mother made. Well, I guess you say, what can make me feel this way, my girl? Talking about my girl, my girl. I've got so much honey that the bees and beaming all up. I got a sweeter soul, baby, than any birds in the tree. Oh yeah. Well, I guess you say, what can make me feel this way, my girl? Talking about my girl, my girl. Hey. Come on, y'all. Sing, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. Ooh. I don't need no money. Oh, should have fainted. Come on, I've got all the riches, baby. Once me to make it plain. Oh no. Well, I guess you say, what can make me feel this way, my girl? Talking about my girl. Talking about I got sunshine on a cloudy day, baby. Whoa. I've even got the month of May, my girl. Talking about my girl. Oh, wait a minute. I want to say a couple things. Back in the day, we used to do this song from Philadelphia. And many of you remember these lyrics. And then we're going to go on to another song that I know you know. Just a little snippet, okay? Athene, you ready, fellas? Yeah. Check it. I remember when I used to play shoot 'em up, bang, bang, baby. I remember when I chased the girls and beat 'em up. I really. I'll say it again. I remember when I used to play shoot 'em up, bang, bang, baby. I remember when I chased girls and beat 'em up. Yeah, so check this out. Listen. Grooving on a Sunday afternoon. Really couldn't get away too soon. No. On a Monday afternoon. No. Really couldn't get away too soon. No. Talk about my girl. Talking about my girl. My baby's fine as wine, 'cause she's my girl. Oh, girl. talking about my girl. Baby, 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 my girl. My girl.
Thank you again.
Yes,
Thank you
yes,
so
yes,
much
yes.
for having us. All right.
Yes.
We wish you would do. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Have a fabulous afternoon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.